Hey everyone, this is Walter, and I'm back here with some more stories from Reddit. Today we're back to figuring out who is wrong in some conflicts. Am I the Asshole is the place to post your problems and ask who is the asshole. A catharsis for the frustrated moral philosopher in all of us, and a place to finally find out if you were wrong in an argument that's been bothering you. Tell us about any non-violent conflict you have experienced. Give us both sides of the story and find out if you're right or you're the asshole. Well, let's just begin with stories from Reddit Am I the Asshole? And we're jumping straight into wedding-related shenanigans. Am I the asshole for firing my bridesmaid for disclosing her diagnosis at my bachelorette? I'm getting married in 3 weeks and I just had my bachelorette over Easter weekend. During a quiet moment, one of my bridesmaids took me aside and told me that about 3 months ago she was diagnosed with fetal alcohol syndrome. Obviously, I asked her what that meant for her and she started crying because she feels differently about her relationship with her mother. We met in elementary school and she's always had a learning disability, but she didn't know that there was a preventable cause. My other bridesmaids noticed her crying and the evening ended up being about her. We skipped out on going to a bar in the limo I had hired because she was upset. I thought about it all today and ended up emailing her to tell her that she took away an important moment from my life. I feel bad about this happening to her, but even though she didn't always know, it's been going on for her whole life. If this was a recent thing she found out about, or it was some kind of deadly disease, I would feel differently, but she was sitting on this for months before bringing it up at an event that was supposed to be special to me. You only get one bachelorette, and mine was totally overshadowed. I feel really hurt that she did that, and told her I didn't want to have her in my wedding, if that's how she was going to treat me at a time when the focus was supposed to be something good in my life instead of something sad in hers. She could have waited a few more weeks until after the wedding if she wanted to have this conversation. She's still invited to the wedding, but I don't want her to be a bridesmaid after this. I was just texting my cousin, my maid of honor, and she disagreed with me doing this. She said that it sucked that we didn't go to the bar, but this other friend had already paid for her dress, so I should just let her stay. My fiancé supports my choice, but I wanted another opinion. Am I the asshole? It's a rough situation. It was really shitty of her to hijack the party like that. And I don't think someone could entirely do that on accident. I mean, if you can't have fun, then just don't go. Limos are not cheap. That being said, maybe taking her out of the wedding might be a bit much. Imagine she's already depressed and then this. Everyone sucks here. I get it. She found out months ago and waited until that night to say anything, took the attention, and you lost out on the money you paid. It was completely understandable to be hurt and frustrated. But you didn't need to cut her from the wedding. That was retaliation, pure and simple. You could have called her and opened up the door to have an honest conversation about how you felt and allow her to respond. This would have shown compassion and grace. Instead, you made a decisive decision because your feelings were hurt. It is your wedding, but she is also a close enough friend where you asked her to be a bridesmaid, and she deserved that conversation before you decided to push her out. I would absolutely apologize to her and realize that in this case you've both been shitty to each other. And another wedding one. Am I the asshole because I don't want to help my sister financially because she promoted her MLM at my wedding? I, 29 female, married my wife in October last year. Best day of my life. My, 32 female, sister Bianca has been in MLM for almost 3 years. She has seriously become another person since she started her business. We share some group chats and there's not a day that goes by that she doesn't send out catalogs, promotions, and walls of text about how lucrative the opportunity is. About the topic, it was the beginning of the wedding reception. My wife and I are talking to some of our guests when our wedding planner frantically approaches us and tells us that there is a guest handing out MLM business cards to arriving guests. Turns out it was Bianca. I asked her to stop and she did, except she spent the whole night trying to talk people into the business. In the grand scheme of things, what Bianca did was insignificant because my wife and I were very happy that day and there were no major problems. But I still get angry when I think about how uncomfortable it must have been for the guests who were subjected to her presentation. Fortunately, they graciously accepted our apologies. Every time my wedding is mentioned, someone is sure to mention my crazy sister who is promoting her MLM. So incredibly embarrassing. Bianca and I haven't had a lot of contact since then. Yesterday my mom called me and after a bit of catching up, she told me that my sister's business hasn't been doing very well and she's been struggling to meet her monthly quotas, so now she's behind on rent and needs money. Bianca asked my mom for money and she in turn asked me to help her. I said absolutely no. She embarrassed me at my wedding, she didn't even apologize, and I was absolutely sure she was going to use the money I gave her to get into another MLM now that this one was no longer working for her. My mom said that I'm cruel and rude. She said that she did not raise me to betray my family. I told her that she is just feeding my sister's fantasy world and making her believe that at some point she is going to be successful with her MLM. Am I the asshole? We're not on speaking terms right now. I feel like the sister's pretty lucky they aren't actually that mad over it. This is one of the most awkward wedding things I've ever covered. I don't think I've covered MLMs, but I'm sure most people are aware that this woman's career is not going anywhere. It's not even in her best interest that her family helps her with this. Apparently the subject's popular on Am I the Asshole because none of the comments are talking about the wedding. Not the Asshole was in a similar situation with an old friend. She became an awful person after her MLM, only contacted you if she wanted money, you to buy from her, and was bitter and angry if you refused. She lost her home, partner, and a lot of friends through it. Unfortunately, she stopped the MLM but kept her narcissistic personality, and has a new partner who encourages it. Here's one that really annoys me. Am I the asshole for making my boyfriend eat fast food for a week? My boyfriend grew up in a house that valued outdated gender norms. The women were always responsible for cooking and cleaning, so he didn't learn how to do any of that for most of his life. That is, until he moved in with me after college. He's been good about a few things. He doesn't mind helping with dishes or handling the laundry, but the one thing I can't seem to get him to do is learn how to cook. The only thing he can do is microwave frozen meals. I've been trying to teach him the basics, but it seems like it goes through one ear and just comes out the other. He still can't turn on the oven or use the stove without help. The toaster is too complicated for him to use, he claims. Doesn't know how to boil eggs, cook rice, or even how to measure out ingredients using cups. I just don't understand why he can't grasp this but is fine with other things. Here's the part where I may be an asshole. I went on a trip 2 weeks ago for work. I'm in charge of buying groceries. We have separate accounts, and I realized how expensive his frozen meals actually are. $3 to $4 for each. I said screw it and bought the easiest ingredients I could find for a lot cheaper for him to cook on his own. He doesn't like leftovers, so me cooking ahead for him was out. Before I left, I sat him down once again and gave him a very long lesson on using the oven, toaster, and stove, as well as how to boil/scramble eggs, toast a piece of toast, boil rice/noodles, and heat up pasta sauce. I also taught him how to pan fry things like onions and other veggies, and how to tell when they were ready. In case he didn't want to cook both lunch and dinner, I also bought things to make salads and fixings for sandwiches. I come back a week later and he is angry. He claims I practically left him to starve and how I know he has trouble cooking. I retaliate, saying I showed him what to do, and I get a whole range of excuses. Setting the oven/stove temperature is too complicated. He cut his finger chopping onions and couldn't chop any until his cut healed. He only likes the salad kits, so everything is balanced. Apparently, he only ate sandwiches, canned goods, and fast food for a week. He thinks I'm a major asshole for not telling him I'm not buying his frozen meals, and leaving him alone to fend for himself. On one hand, I do think it was shitty of me not to tell him I didn't buy his meals. And as someone who grew up in a home pretty much only boiled hot dogs and veggies, and only properly learned how to cook after moving out, I do feel for him. But at the same time, after a few months of not getting the simplest concepts, I'm left feeling partially justified in my actions. So Reddit, am I the asshole? So he's bitching about eating fast food all week, but eating those horrible microwave meals is better for him? And those things are like $5 to $6 here. These food prices are getting criminal. The OP does tell us that it's a normal toaster he can't figure out, the kind I used every morning when I was like 5 to heat up my toaster strudels. Yeah, it was pretty complicated to be fair. Everyone in the comments is calling this weaponized incompetence, a term I'm not familiar with. Let's read a bit. Weaponized incompetence. Anyone can use a toaster. Boyfriend wants OP to cook for him forever. OP not the asshole. You are not responsible for your boyfriend's food. Please consider if you want to be his free live-in cook. Also, nobody died from eating sandwiches for a week. Your boyfriend is manipulating you into feeling guilty. You're absolutely right about weaponized incompetence. I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume he knows how to use a computer, an Xbox, a smart TV, and can use Google Maps for directions. He's not mentally disabled. He actually can figure out how to turn on an oven and fry food in a pan. If OP has some reason she wants to continue to date this person, she should refuse to grocery shop or cook. Just flat out refuse. Let him starve until he can bring himself to figure out turning on a stove. By the way, these kind of stories always get locked because they don't like terms like mama's boy and man-child, but I have no idea how they expect people not to use them when this is the story. This next one has some updates and features someone who's not being a mama's boy. Am I the asshole for taking my wife's side after she screamed and cursed at my mother? On mobile, throwaway. This just happened and my wife is currently sleeping while my mom is blowing up my phone. Added some edits at the bottom. I, 33 male, am married to my wonderful wife Melody, 29 female, and she is currently pregnant with our first child together. I have a 6-year-old daughter, Tina, whose mother I split 50-50 custody with, so I know for the most part what Melody needs in order to feel supported while she carries our child. I have been spending lots of time making sure she's comfortable and taking on more of the load at home so she's not doing too much. This is her first child after all, and it's obviously a lot for her physically and emotionally. My mother and Melody don't get along too well. Mom didn't like my ex either. We broke up because we were headed on different paths, not because of my mother, and there's no bad blood. So I think she just doesn't like her because she's dating me for whatever reason. It's weird. She's very nitpicky about Melody, how much she does around the house, how emotional she is. Melody already cries very easily, and being pregnant has made her even more sensitive, which is fine. The fact that she wants to be a stay-at-home mom, it just seems like nothing Melody does is okay. I do, however, stand up for her and do not just allow my mom to talk down to her. Today, before picking up my daughter from summer camp, Melody went to 3 different grocery stores to find rotisserie chicken. She's been talking about it since last night and really wanted one, lol. She sent me picture messages documenting her quest for the chicken and finally found it. My girl was happy. Rotisserie chicken is also kind of a comfort food for her, like spaghetti, because her mom used to make one of those when she was having a lazy day and didn't feel like cooking. She was planning on serving that with some other basic sides for dinner, perfectly fine by me. My mother came by to see Tina and started telling Melody the chicken is bad for her, and she should not be eating that while pregnant. Melody said it's fine, she usually eats healthy, and just wants this one thing she's craving. My mom went on about how unhealthy it was, and said she needs to eat something else. Man, fuck this shit. Who tells an adult what they're allowed to eat? You know, within reason, of course. Melody said no and went to the backyard to FaceTime her family, out of state. When she came back, my mom had thrown out the food and ordered takeout. A salad for Melody and pizza for everybody else. Melody asked where the chicken was, and my mother told her she needs to start being a responsible mother and eat correctly for the baby. Melody screamed, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you always such a bitch to me?" She then started crying and called me home. I came back and asked my mother to leave after hearing her story and said she is not to come back until she apologizes for how she treated Melody. My mom went on about how I'm choosing another woman over her, but I just think enough is enough and Melody reached her limit. She apologized to me for blowing up when Tina was in the house, but I told her it's okay, things happen. Tina is okay and I went to find her another chicken before the store closed. My dad thinks I'm right for taking Melody's side, but my brother thinks I should always defend mom, so am I the asshole? Is the brother married? Because I feel like automatically siding with your mom over your spouse is a pretty stupid policy in multiple ways. Not that I'm married or anything, but it seems kind of obvious. Edit. Okay, not to be that guy, but I did not expect this to get so much attention. I woke up to so many notifications, and I'm going to try to go through as many as I can, but wow, thank you guys for all the support and awards. Melody loves all the kind messages from all of you, especially the mamas and soon-to-be mamas who get it, as she put it, lol. My mom claimed it was the seasonings and fat/grease that made the chicken bad for her. It's all BS, but that's what she claimed. I do plan on having a sit-down with both my parents and my brother with my mom. A lot of you have mentioned emotional incest, which is creeping me out, and other things along those lines that need to be addressed. I'll talk to my dad first, then have a family meeting. A lot of you asked why I would still want my mom around, and honestly, maybe I'm just weak, but that's my mother. However, if she cannot learn to change and respect my family, then we will just have to go no contact. It's hard, but it is what it is. Melody doesn't even want to completely cut her out, she just wants change as well. But I will protect Melody at all costs, and if that means cutting off my mom, then so be it. My ex and I did not break up because of my mother. We had different ideas of where our lives were going. Tina was not planned, and we were already heading towards going our separate ways before she got pregnant. We tried to make it work for Tina, but that's not what relationships are about, so we split, and it's working great. My ex and Melody get along great. Tina is happy, and we work through things as one big blended family. My ex and Melody have talked about my mother with each other before, and that was when I realized I needed to see a therapist to work through my childhood with a mom like mine. It's a process. I'm working through it the best I can. Some people asked about our culture. We're all Black Americans, so I think it's more of a mom-son thing than a cultural thing. Edit 2, I did find her another chicken yesterday night after this whole fiasco. Thanks to everyone who recommended we get a Costco card, that way she won't have to go on another chicken quest. You know something, the last time I went on a quest like that was to like 3 different corner stores looking for charcoal, and I never found it that day. But if I did find it and then my mother-in-law threw it out and ordered me a salad, I'd be pretty fucking pissed. Even as a man with no kids, I'm aware, as OP is, that you have to cut women some slack while they're pregnant. It's a hormone thing. How does this woman who has had kids not know this? Is it something you forget after 30 years? No idea. Anyway, let me know what you think about it in the comments if you'd like. The last 2 stories really annoyed me. But that is about all the time I have for you today. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you liked the video, please give it a like. If you have something to say about the stories or about my content in general, please let me hear it in the comments. I'll be reading those while the story's new. If you're new here, consider subscribing, because that number is how people judge you on this site. Also, gigantic thanks to my amazing patrons who support me more directly over on Patreon. It helps me be able to do this for a living, and I really appreciate the help. Have a great day, everyone, even if your toaster is a little too complicated to figure out.